from the trailer park. For all you loyal Order of the Trailer Park fans, Secret Society, this is our secret hand sign. Me and Jeff Davis down here. Hey Jeff, wake up.
I'm here.
He's a trailer park fan too, don't you know?
Yeah.
We're at the official bar of the trailer park. Wannabe Bar in Gonzales, Texas, and Runaway Scrape Steakhouse. Good. And this is good. What are you laughing at? He lives in a double line. What do you expect?
It's been a great day now. Yeah, we got some business done. We got a lot of footage, didn't we? Trailer Park Show.
I love Mike Hanson Archives.
You ready to run?
Hello, folks. This is Jeff Davis with the legendary Jeff Davis Show from Central Texas, USA. And I love Mike Hanson Archives. Peace out, baby.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God in shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn, and your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? Oh, sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave.
Brainwash, camouflage, crazy Christian patriot, a paranoid, signaloid, schizoid isolationist, a homophobe, xenophobe, rabbit, anti-Semitic,
So I say this to the militias and all others who believe that the greatest threat to freedom comes from the government. If you appropriate our sacred symbols for paranoid purposes and compare yourselves to colonial militias who fought for the democracy you now rail against, you are wrong. How dare you call yourselves patriots and heroes? If you say the government is in a conspiracy to take your freedom away, you are just plain wrong. There is no freedom.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is a very real prospect of a new world order.
The new world order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
That America's central bank operates in the public interest. The truth is that the Federal Reserve is a private bank owned by private stockholders for their private profit. Any doubt whether the Federal Reserve is a part of the U.S. government, check your local telephone book.
In most cities, it is not listed in the blue government pages. It is listed in the business white pages right next to Federal Express, another private company. But more directly, U.S. courts have ruled time and time again that the Fed is a private corporation.
Today, we're all going to learn a new term. It's only 2 words. Now listen closely. Can all of you say constructive fraud?
Constructive fraud!
Did you ever get the feeling as you're staring at the ceiling that this game of life we play ain't fair? Seems as fast as we can make it, there's a hand that grabs and takes it till they find us in a grave somewhere. Like a rodent on a treadmill, we keep pushing for it uphill, but we never seem to get too far. Well, if you think you're being taken, then you're ready to awaken to the truth of what we really are. We're all indentured, servitudal slaves, overburdened and bewildered feudal knaves, who have lost our sole posterity through ignorance and apathy, and now we're being taxed out of our graves. And as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb, contented with some socialistic crumb. Well, the naked truth and fact is we're all saps who pay our taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us dumb. Could the state of our condition be the product of omission, what we didn't learn in public schools? And did our fathers all through history all fight and die for liberty so we could play the tyrant's fools? And can you call it education when it's all indoctrination to obey the hidden powers that be? Did we fight the revolution? Did we win the world wars just to slumber into slavery? We're all indentured, servitudal slaves, overburdened and bewildered feudal knaves, who have lost our sole posterity through ignorance and apathy, and now we're being taxed out of our graves. And as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb, contented with some humanistic crumb. Well, the naked truth and fact is we're all saps who pay those taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us dumb. While Franklin and Eleanor were telling us they hated war, they made a deal behind our backs. They said the bankers could enslave us for a portion of our wages, and today we call it income tax. But what they failed is to tell us was the way they planned to sell us into statutory slavery. Now it's called constructive fraud. Some even claim the wrath of God. I call it social insecurity. Let's being indentured servitudal slaves, overburdened and bewildered feudal knaves, and reclaim our lost posterity, rise up and proclaim liberty. It's high time we rock the boat and make some waves, 'cause as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb. They'll starve us on their communistic crumb. And the naked truth and fact is, we don't have to pay those taxes. Yes, it's time we show those banksters, those international gangsters. So let's turn the tables and spoil all their fun.
Hello, Awesome Texas, and we are back. Now, this is Monday night. It's live on 22 December 1997. And we've got, if we have time, we're going to get to some footage that was played on 60 Minutes yesterday. If we have time, we're going to do that. But until then, I'm going to do something down here that I've been wanting to do for a long time and haven't done it, due to the fact that we have lots of guests down here and whatnot. And we're going to do it. We're now going to do it. I want to talk to you folks about the current state of affairs that we're living under. And I would recommend that you get your VCRs and tape the program. Because I think if you watch this program, if you listen to what's being said here, you will agree that at least, even without any investigation, that in part, what I'm presenting here is truth. And it's just basically, like I say, it's the state of the current affairs that we're in. Now, I want to just preface this by first off saying that there's a lot of people that have stepped forward in this information movement, and I want to just go ahead and just thank them for it. I'm not going to mention anybody right now. We'll do that later in the program. But the thing I want to just bring up and talk to you for a little while today is what's called this New World Order. Now, if you watch Bill Clinton and some of these other people, the term is not New World Order anymore. Now it's international community, global community, etc. World this, world that, international interest. And this is the gist of where I want to talk about. Now, this current problem that we're under, that America's in, actually dates back to the year 1776 with a fellow named Adam Weishaupt, who founded the Order of the Illuminati. And he actually wrote a document, which I have a copy of, who basically stated that one day, through secret societies, through international finance, through his ancestors and descendants, that one day they would buy up the world. And this, my friends, is exactly what has happened. Their goals are quite clear. They wanted world government and world conquest for their descendants. Now, I want to mention first off that currently there's as little as 8 families who run and control the world right now. And I'll just mention them briefly. These are the people that have stepped into the limelight over the years. Remember, John D. Rockefeller was the first one who tried to corner the oil market, J.P. Morgan, and the Rothschilds with their banking dynasties. And that's basically the preface of the current rulership. You've got the Rockefeller dynasty, you've got the Habsburg dynasty, the Rothschild dynasty through the Bank of England, the Oppenheimer reserves, who's the big diamond king in South Africa, the Bronfman family, Edgar Bronfman, who's the owner of Seagram's Distillery, and he's also the president of the World Jewish Congress. These are just a few of the families that are in rulership position right now, and they've acquired this wealth through ownership of international financial institutions. Now, the goals of Adam Weishaupt and his descendants were quite clear. Basically, they wanted a global financial system which they control. The IMF, the World Bank, the Federal Reserve Bank, and through international finance, they would be able to buy up most of anything of any significance. That is the key of their control. And from that, now I'm turning around. There's a lot of events that have happened in the first 150 years in this country. Andrew Jackson killed the central bank. Abraham Lincoln was against the central bank. He printed the greenbacks. There has been attempts throughout the history of this country of a central bank being formulated and controlled by the European elite. And not until 1913 did that actually get done, December 23rd, 1913, with the passage of the Federal Reserve Act. Now keep in mind, folks, this is the control and the heart of their mechanism. Because without the debt usury money system, the ability to steal from everybody and control the world's resources, they would not have the resources to buy up most of the organizations that I'm going to be talking about here briefly. Now, their basic goals, of course, were to eliminate nationalities, the abolishment of the U.S. Constitution, which they did in 1933 with the War and Emergency Powers Act. We're going to be getting into that a little bit later. Religions, we're going to be talking about that quite intensely over the next hour. Organized religion and its role in this. Education, free public education for children starting at an early age will be allowed, will be trained in the fundamentals of obeying the state, just like the churches teach you now. Mobility, and we're seeing this now with high-speed rail and other mechanisms. The mass transit will be the basic mode of travel, having one's papers in order. Licenses, registration, road use fees, display of proper identification will be a necessity before an individual will be allowed to travel. We're already seeing that much to the disliking of many. Now, basically, the whole gist of Adam Weishaupt's dreams was to control the world's people and their resources. And this is now some 220 years later, and I believe they're on the very threshold of doing that. I want to mention some secret societies that the Illuminati has infiltrated over the last couple hundred years and are now diligently working for the quest of the global slave elite. First off is the P2 Lodge in Europe, the Knights of Malta, the Order of the Jesuits, which is a Catholic order, high-level Freemasonry, the Skull and Bone Society, of which the Bushes, George and George Jr. are both members of the Skull and Bone Society, and the Eastern Star, which is the woman's side of Freemasonry. Some of the semi-secret meeting groups that they formulated, basically what they are is just little meeting houses for them to go and meet and plot and decide what they're going to do with this country and that country. It includes one of the top groups is the Committee of 300, the Club of Rome, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, and there's actually several more here that I can see. The Aspen Institute, the Bohemian Grove, regional federations such as NATO, international labor unions, and on the world basis, of course, in the intelligence arena, you have the CIA, you have the Interpol, the mafia, organized crime industry, British intelligence, the KGB, and of course the CIA. That's the intelligence network on a global basis. Now, now as far as those are semi-secret front groups that the enemy has established. Now, on a public scale, the ones that we hear about regularly in the media, the ones that are providing peace and doing good for the world, of course, is the United Nations, the World Trade Organization. We hear about that pretty frequently now. The World Council of Churches, which is another one of their systems of that's actually spiritual control. NATO, as I mentioned, the World Health Organization, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the World Wildlife Fund. Basically, on all spheres now, they've got something working in their best interest, either environmentally, politically, spiritually, or whatever. Now, some of the American front groups, I want to just mention this, basically includes virtually anything of any significance. They've either created and financed or have infiltrated. That includes both the major political parties. If you look at your Bill Clinton is a member of the CFR, Newt Gingrich is a member of the CFR. What you got here is the old order out of chaos, where they appear to be providing on the surface some differences, but in fact there is no difference. The common objectives are globalism and bigger government. And that includes, folks, even the Libertarian Party, I believe, has been infiltrated. So it's a big system here that we're talking about. Now, of course, the major media is part of their handmaiden. Now, we're going to be talking about that. National Public Radio, the American Civil Liberties Union, the National Pro-Life Groups, the NRA, the National Council of Churches, the Nature Conservancy. Most environmental groups, by the way, are funded by the same corporate interest that they, on the surface, appear to be fighting. So I think that's kind of an interesting little twist when you look at that particular situation. Different voters groups that we hear about, so-called human rights groups. Now the National Organization for Women, different trade organizations, as I mentioned. All major denominations of religions. Now keep in mind, folks, that nowhere in the Bible is Catholic mentioned, or Episcopalian, or Pentecostal, or Protestant, or Baptist, or none of this. So you have to wonder next, and where did all this confusion come from? Well, I think as we move along here, you'll have a pretty good idea of where this confusion came from. And since we're on the verge of Christmas here, I want to just mention that, of course, all of the mainstream churches are supporting Christmas, and they're supporting the pagan holiday and all the Antichrist activities that go with it, including the Christmas tree, which Christ ordered his disciples to cut down, the day being December 25th, which is tied into the winter solstice, old winter festival of the heathen, and various different things. The gift exchange, which is recorded in the Bible one time in Revelations, and that was when the time that Christ died and the heathen worshipped his death. That was the only recorded gift exchange in the Bible. So the fact is, virtually all of what we're facing, folks, is it's a political, it's an economic, and it's a spiritual system of control and enslavement. And like I say, as we progress along here, I think you'll start to see this. Lawyer groups, the barrister, the bar situation, that's actually a British term, barrister. Virtually any organization of any significance was either created, financed, or infiltrated by the people who are in control of this system. Now, some of the strategies and mechanisms now I'm just going to speak strictly right now of America. Now, they're doing a lot of different things with other countries. They got troops in Bosnia. They've got our troops in Bosnia. They've got, other troops other places. They're doing different types of strategies on different countries. I'm just going to speak right now of America's current problem. One thing that the key to understanding freedom, real freedom, the gauge of freedom, in fact, is economics. Now, when you consider that this country is so far in debt now that the debt can never be repaid. There's only one answer, and that is basically we repudiate the debt and we turn back to a constitutional money system, debt-free money system. Otherwise, there's just no hope. The debt is up in the umpteen trillions, personal, private, and governmental, to where the debt, and there's compounded interest being paid on it, the debt could never be repaid. And that's just the fact behind that. As far as the debt, of course you got the Federal Reserve. That's the heart of the problem. And then they try to manipulate us into things like bonds, selling bonds and all this type of thing for the children and all of this. And keep in mind, folks, that debt equals slavery. And that's a key when you understand this, that our masters over us now, ruling over this nation, use debt and financing as the main mechanism, part of the economic system that they use. Taxes is, as you see up there on the screen, is a form of slavery, form of economic enslavement. Income tax was instituted with the 16th Amendment in 1914, and since that time of course they promised to soak the rich at the time, and they've ended up, the deal was that they fed us was that they would only tax us 2%. We're now up to, depending upon what tax bracket you're in, up to 15 to 29%. We also have sales taxes, and we have one of the most enslaving taxes, I believe, the property tax, which basically means you don't own what you live on. Even though you say you own it, it's an illusion of ownership. So they've instituted economic means of controlling us and tracing us, or tracking us, tracking our transactions. Now, one of the big strategies that I see that they employed on the American people was back in 1935 with the creation of the Raw Deal. I mean the New Deal with President Roosevelt. Roosevelt was just another one of their minions, and one way to control a good part of the population is to make people dependent. And the slave masters at that time knew that this would be a vital mechanism, and they sold it to us as good. But so they created all different types of social and welfare programs to make people dependent, retirement programs to make people dependent upon in their retirement, different types of licensings and permits, and you got to get the government, you got to ask the government to do this and do that, make you dependent upon them. It's also created a dependent voting bloc in this country, and which means that there's a good number of people that are on these programs now that are not going to bite the hand that feeds them, so they're going to continue to vote for more of these big expansion of programs. One of the main mechanisms, of course, is they create fear. We're going to be getting into this a little bit later. And they also control a huge bit of the corporate elite through corporate welfare, and through, of course, the economic side of it, of buying up stocks and bonds, and then through the manipulation of Wall Street have been able to buy up a good portion of the large corporation base. So you got economics involved, and you've got dependency involved, and these are two mechanisms that the enemy of America, the people who control this country now, are employing. They've also they've been very sneaky in using Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto to employ different types of systems of permits and whatnot. They've got the state control of industries through taxation and huge regulatory agencies, OSHA and the EPA and these kinds of things. They've got their central bank. They've created public education over the last 50 years. And as David Rockefeller once stated, the public education was helpless people yielding themselves to our molding hands. Excuse me. So they got the public education thing going, and there's Mr. Rockefeller there. They got the income tax, as we've noted, property tax, government education, or actually, public education. We've already talked about that. And another thing that they've employed, now they employed this in 1933 with the War and Emergency Powers Act. They installed what's called executive orders. And there's been like 17,000 executive orders by the 10 or 12 presidents since 1933 that we've had. And basically what an executive order is, folks, is it creates dictatorial powers like I say, established in 1933 by the War and Emergency Powers Act, and allows the president to enter laws in the Federal Register where the House and Senate cannot vote on the Federal Register guidelines, and after 30 days it becomes law. And we're seeing this. Clinton did this. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, but Clinton did this in 1993, 92, which ultimately, and what they do is they basically bribe the states in these federal mandates that are not voted on. They basically bribe the states into submitting to some type of tyrannical type system or scenario, overpowering the 10th Amendment, state sovereignty, and they bribe them through grants. And we're seeing this. Basically, if the state doesn't want to submit to blood and urine sampling, like one of the latest Federal Register says, then they just will refuse to cut off their highway funding. So this is the kind of a system that has been going along now for a long time. And I want to get in briefly now to some of the strategies and the mechanisms that they're employing on us. Now, this is very important when you understand what your enemy's doing to you. I think this is the most important element in the equation. You don't really have to understand a lot of the system that they've got created, where they've gained resources, although I think that's important too. But what I want to encourage people to do is to start recognizing the various mechanisms that they're employing on us. And if you watch the national news media, even the local news media, you will see this regularly. First off, one of their main mechanisms, of course, is the drug war. And basically, the CIA has been involved in many years in bringing cocaine and heroin into the country. And then what that does is create fear and hysteria, and justifies more police powers. And I'm going to be talking about the Hegelian principle a little bit later and how they're using that. They also use a system what I call order out of chaos. And these are just little schemes that shenanigans that they've developed or implemented from other past research. But order out of chaos involves various different mechanisms. First off, through the various front organizations that we've talked about earlier. They control left and right, up and down, black and white, and basically they control both sides. A good example of this was in the Vietnam War, when they had that phony war going on. They created the left-wing peace movement, and basically what the peace movement was all about on a general scale. There were some people that were protesting it just for being over there, but a lot of the peace movement was that we don't want the money spent for our young people to be in Vietnam, because we want more spending over here for social programs. So it's the left-right syndrome, and you see this regularly. If you're watching, basically these different front organizations they basically create black and white and control both sides. Loyal opposition, they use that, and that is basically when they'll use some group to oppose another group's opinions or attempted policies for the wrong reasons. We saw this in NAFTA, for example, in GATT, where NAFTA and GATT, of course, GATT was actually planned back in the 50s as part of their globalism to set up a regionalism type system where the internationalists could more manage the economy better. And actually planned in the 50s, they just got around to it 3 years ago with GATT, NAFTA and GATT. But the opposition you saw was not opposing the idea of sovereignty or giving up our policies to a World Trade Organization. Rather, it was, for jobs and the environment and this kind of thing. So you're seeing this on a regular basis. And then, of course, they've got their little tandem, phony little things going. They got their Clinton girlfriends and the corrupt politicians and whatnot. Just giving you a little chaos, spoon-feeding you some chaos to get you a little apathetic and turned off the process. Now, one of the main mechanisms that I've talked about on this show before, and we'll continue to talk about as long as we have a forum down here, there was a old German philosopher named Hegel, and he developed a 1-2-3 system, which has been adopted by the enemy. It's called the Hegelian principle. Now, the Hegelian principle is a 3-step process. Basically, the enemy creates the crisis, and then in step 1 and in step 2, they come in and bring in fear, and they create fear and hysteria amongst the masses. And then in step 3, provide the solution for the problems that they created in step 1 and 2. Very powerful tool that they use. Some examples of the Hegelian principle at work, of course, is the drug war, where they bring the drugs in here, the large bulk of drugs in here, launder the money through major financial institutions, and then turn around and have a drug war. And basically what that amounts to is a war on people and a war on guns. And through the fear and hysteria that's created on this drug war, unfortunately too few people understand how they're being manipulated in this process. They've done this with public education. They create the government training centers, and there's a lot of problems and a lot of curriculum changes and a lot of problems that need to be addressed. So then they come in step 3 with more money and ultimately more schools being put under federal control or some type of federal guidelines, federal standards, basically just to brainwash the kids to the expectations that they want them to be in. And they do this with government programs. They've created all these programs, many of which have failed for one reason or another, and so what they do is they just create more programs, and they're more coercive than the programs that they had created prior to. So you see this mechanism being employed quite regularly. Now I want to talk quickly here about diversions that they use against us. Diversions is a very powerful mechanism that they use, and basically they create apathy through different shock treatment. This is a basic psychological tool that they've employed through fear tactics and different things, and they've made people politically apathetic by all of the political scandals that they've shown and this kind of thing. And of course what this has done has led many people into the sports arenas and the entertainment industry, and basically just focusing on issues, just like the old Roman gladiators did, back in Rome. They just focused on issues of, sports and entertainment and network shows and soap operas and puppet shows and this kind of thing. So they've definitely done a good job with that. Now they also employ the old divide and conquer mechanism. The old divide and conquer mechanism is a powerful tool that they've employed. They pit black against white, smoker against non-smoker, male against female. Virtually any type of divisive issue that you can see, that you know of, they're using it. And like I say, if you watch the national news media, you will see this regularly. Keep in mind the media is their handmaid in all this. Another powerful tool that they use is they always have to have a foreign enemy. There has to be a Saddam, or there has to be the Vietnamese and their communism and those wicked Koreans and all. There has to be some type of enemy abroad. It's a standard. I mean, this goes back to Egypt, as far as I know, way back to the old emperors of Rome, and they always keep the people focused on some created enemy or something over here abroad, so they don't really see what's happening here at home. Typical age-old argument that they're tool mechanism that they use. Now, one area that I talk about, and most people won't, but I talk about it because it's important, and that's the element of organized religion. Organized religion, folks, keep in mind, God it did not create the organized religion that we have today. These huge buildings and fancy structures, and these pastors that are parroting what they were taught in their seminaries and what they're handed down through their so-called respective church denominations. Once again, folks, God, nowhere in the Bible is the word Catholic or Pentecostal, Episcopalian, Protestant, Baptist, any of these terms used in the Bible. So you got to wonder where did all this confusion come from? Well, that's when we start studying the World Council of Churches, another one of their divisive organizations that has been responsible, again, through the main mechanism, of course, international finance, but they've created these different religions, and again, on the surface, it make it appear like there's something different, but the fact is there isn't. They're all practicing Sunday Sabbaths, and anybody with any sense knows that Saturday's the Sabbath. But they've got all different things. They all practice Easter and Christmas, and they get you feeling real good, and doing a little bit of choir singing, and some hip shaking, this kind of thing. Get you feeling real good in there on Sunday mornings. But the fact is, folks, they're phony. Very few of them are teaching actual biblical principles, and 95% of them teach the old render unto Caesar and submit to the authority business. Just think of how well this plays into the hands of your slave masters. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out here that what we're up against is economical, political, and spiritual. And that's what it is. They've got all wheels turning here. Anybody that doesn't want to talk about this, I'm sorry. Jeff Davis is going to talk about it. Jeff Davis is going to tell you what's happening, how you're being manipulated on all fronts, whether people like it or not. That's what I've been doing down here for a long time, and I'm going to continue to do it, like I say, as long as I'm allowed to have a forum down here. Now, we've talked about sports and entertainment, national news, pumping it out every day, the scores and all of this. This goes way back. And then, of course, they've got the issues of absolutely no significance. And if you see this, if you watch the news regularly, where they're basically all have the same stories and they've all got the same slant on them, at least 50% of them are issues of no significance. For example, like I say, I use the OJ, which just absolutely clustered the American people's mind for a year and a half. OJ, and then you got the Bobbitt story and the Marv Alberts and this kind of stuff. Just the stuff that doesn't have anything to do with liberty or freedom or how we're being how we're having our sovereignty being stolen from us, and our Bill of Rights is being flushed down the toilet. No, they don't want you to talk about that. They want you to talk about O.J. and Bobbitt. Give me a break, Jeff Davis. Why should we be focusing on the issues you talk about? They're not pleasant. I want to just stay focused on eating my cheeseburger and watching the Cowboys and who's making in the playoffs this weekend. I don't want to listen to that guy. Yeah, we all know how it goes, folks. The fact is, that's not going to do anything for the liberty of your children. That's not going to do anything for freedom for the future generations. So just keep doing it if that's what you choose to do. I have chosen to stand up for something I believe in, and that's just exactly what I'm going to do. Like I say, as long as I'm able and capable of having a forum down here, and other forums that I go that we at the Jeff Davis Show have privy to. Another mechanism that they've used, other than all of the versions and the order out of chaos and all of this, you see, is they've done an excellent job in weakening their resistance to their world slave state. Number one, they have effectively diminished the strong role of the male in the family. And when you consider how powerful that is, I mean, in the American Revolution, it was the men with strong women behind them who fought the American Revolution. when now through the various soap opera shows and all their shows where they diminish the mentality of the men and the role of the men in the family, that is very much becoming very passé now. So they are weakening the resistance through I think, very highly psychological means. They also use a device where they teach compassion for the children, you know. Clinton in every one of 50% of his speeches, he's doing it for the children. He loves the children, don't you know? He loves the children. And so does Newt Gingrich and all of these CFR elitists. They love the children. But if you listen to them, folks, it's not in your hands or my hands or the parents' hands. It's in their hands. The hands of the state. Think about it. Now, we've been documenting the last couple of weeks down here about experimentation on people. Last week down here, I had a copy of actually 2 declassified documents from Senate hearings where there was a hearing on experimentation of people here in America. This involved Project MK Ultra, CIA project, which they claimed in the document that these experiments were no longer taking place. And I believe that is about as much as I own a piece of silver forest in Colorado. But the fact is, we've been documenting this, how the U.S. Army was experimenting mustard gas on its soldiers. The Tuskegee experiment with the black men in Alabama. We've been documenting this, folks. This is your government experimenting on you. This is the same type of people that you entrust with your children. Give me a break, folks. Another mechanism that they've used is they've got that loving AMA, American Medical Association. Basically what that is a mechanism to get people hooked in on drugs and pharmaceuticals and this kind of thing, operate on you like guinea pigs. And I think if they find something good, worthwhile, then they use it for themselves, is what I think it amounts to. But they've used the AMA and the FDA to ban any and all health care practices except their AMA-approved drugs, which means all alternative type health care methods, herbs, all different types of that kind of thing are fastly becoming unavailable, illegal, etc. And they've also weakened our food and water supply system. The food we get largely now at the local HEB or the Albertsons has been largely processed. I think you'd be better off to eat the box than to eat the actual cereal in most of these cereal boxes, or most of these cereal packages. There's more nutritional value in that. Just the sugar is processed. There's a lot of different things that they're doing with the processing of our food systems. Also, when you include the pesticides on our fruits and vegetables, did you ever wonder why there's so many cancers breaking out? And now they're also moving towards the radiation of food. What this does is destroy the live enzymes in our food supply. They're doing it with meats. They create some scare here again that they need to do this. And they're now moving towards irradiating our meats. And of course the basic ploy that they use to weaken any resistance movement is they have a heavy concentration of brainwashing going on. Heavy amounts of conditioning. The biggest line that I've been hearing over the last 3 or 4 months on doing various radio and television programs is that, and the people will call up and they'll say, we're a nation of laws. We need all of these laws to take good care of us, don't you know? Because the people are so damn stupid that they don't know how to act responsibly. So we need all of these laws to compel us to act in a proper behavior. Folks, you have really bought the old sucker line on that one. If you believe, and the fact is, there are so many laws in the books right now today that if they were to implement all the laws, we would all be criminals. There are food hoarding laws. There are so many types of enslaving laws that they have in the books that they're not implementing right now. The fact is that we're all could be vulnerable as criminals. That has to be one of the most ridiculous lines. Can you believe them? Think about the mentality of what you're saying. That the people are so irresponsible and so stupid that they need all these laws coming down from some bureaucrats up in Washington, D.C. or from the UN or somewhere to behave properly. Folks, you have anybody that argues that point has absolutely no conception of what real liberty or freedom or what live and let live or you be responsible for your own actions or you're punished. Has no conception of that whatsoever. You bought into this brainwashing mechanism that they've employed. The need for big government. You know, all the people can't take care of themselves. Don't you know, Jeff Davis? We have to have all these programs, this safety net. Yeah, right. You go and steal from everybody, give it up to a bunch of bankers and bureaucrats and phony politicians so they can send 25 to 30% back down to you with strings attached. Boy, if you believe that one, I've got some swampland, baby, for you in Death Valley, California, man. If you believe that one. So the fact is, folks, they've got this baby working on all cylinders. They've got religious, they've got political, they've got economic. Economic enslavement through debt, through taxes, property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes. They've got the political systems. It's a complete scam. People aren't voting, and that's good for them. Because I tell you right now, if voting hurt the enemy, they wouldn't allow us to do it. So at least the people are understanding, and when you got Tweedledee and Tweedledum as your candidates, that it's not worth going to the voting booths. That's at least that's one step in their favor. They've got the political mechanism. They've got the Hegelians going. They got the order out of chaos. They got diversions. I mean, you name it, baby, they got it cooking. And of course, getting into one of my last subjects here is the controlled news and information at the top. And this is their baby here. Over the course of the last 60, 70 years, ever since J.P. Morgan bought up the 25 most influential newspapers in America, you have basically been given a bill of pablum. You got Peter Jennings, he and Dan Rather up there making $6 million a year. That's as much as some top quarterback in the NFL and Sly Stallone. I think they're all in the same business of entertainment. But you got this controlled news curtain at the top, which of course filters the information down. And the locals pick up on this stuff, this brainwashing from the top. And that's what you're getting. You've also got a regulated media. Not only is it FCC licensed, government licensed media, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's totally bad, except for the fact that through licensing, it's created huge monopolies in the media industry so that only the powerful interest can buy major advertising. That's what the licensing has done. But you also have situations like in Waco, Texas, where they backed the local media up 3 miles, so the media couldn't see what was going on in Waco. They did that for their own best interest, you know. And Republic of Texas, where they backed the local media up 10 miles. You call down there to the Secretary of State of Texas and ask them to do an interview with McLaren, during the siege, because all you're getting is some Mike Cox fella, DPS. That's the only information you're getting fed. And you call down there and you request an interview with Rick McLaren, and they don't let you do it because the whole situation's still under investigation. Boy, I'll tell you what, folks. This propaganda machine that's in place is the worst in recorded history. They've got it cooking 24 hours a day. Now, so ultimately, basically through all these different mechanisms, the media ultimately becomes the handmaiden of the slave masters. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that all people that work in the media are bad people. I will say this, though. Most of them have gone through their proper college courses and been properly indoctrinated into liberalism, and the president is the main authority when you have to follow everything he does and print faithfully every word he says, and don't ask very tough questions either. In fact, that just happened in San Antonio about 3 years ago. A fella asked the wrong question to George Bush when he was down here visiting. It must have been about 6 years back. And they canned the media person because he didn't ask the right question to George Bush. So, with these different mechanisms, the media ultimately becomes the slave master's handmaiden. And like I say, I'm not implying that all the people in the media are bad, because quite frankly, they're in the same mess. They're in the same boat we're in. So have pity on them, if nothing else. Now, want to talk about solutions? I've got some solutions here tonight. The first solution, folks, is you need to wake up. You need to wake up to the fact that this is real. There is a power behind the scenes running this nation that wants you destroyed. That's all there is to it. Maybe if you be a nice enough little slave for them, maybe they'll continue to throw out a little bit more chicken feed. The fact is, the people who are running this nation, controlling this nation, do not have your best interest at heart. You need to wake up. And it's coming at us on every front. They use the environmental movement as part of their mechanism to control huge land masses. They use the children for more programs. They use a murder to brainwash you into telling you how bad guns are. They push for mobile transit and busing, so they can put you in a bus and track your best like cattle. They've got global positioning satellite systems, tracking and tracing, getting ready to implement smart highway systems and cameras. And we're going to get to a piece here in about 15 minutes that was aired yesterday on 60 Minutes. And I have been talking about black helicopters, so-called law enforcement wearing black ski masks, busting into your house under the guise of law enforcement. And I've been telling you this for 5 years, folks, ever since I've had a program down here. And that time you called me a theorist. Now it's in your face, and you're saying it's okay. Well, folks, that's just not going to get it done. So the first step is you need to wake up. This is an unacceptable. What's going on the screen right now is totally unacceptable, and the American people shouldn't be putting up with it. So you need to wake up and educate yourself and others. And we need to start doing it now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till next week. Start educating yourself and finding out who your real enemy is. Another solution that I've come up with, and I see this time and time again from people who call themselves left-wing, right-wing, conservative, liberal, whatever little catchy phrase that you've bought onto that they fed you, is too many of us, not me, but too many of the people are still continue to go to these same thugs and ask them for favors. Folks, it doesn't work. You can't go to thugs and ask them for favors. So it doesn't matter if it's more government, more programs, you want to have the law, the local city crack down on your neighbor over here, whatever it is. Anytime you empower the statist enemy, we all lose. Bottom line. You don't go to thugs and ask them for services. Break free from that. That empowers them. That doesn't empower you. That only empowers them. Some basic tips on independence. If you still have the capabilities, you know, gardening is fine. It's the best vegetables and fruits I believe you'll find. If you can do it. I went over to my friend's house of mine yesterday, had a nice garden out back, no pesticides, hadn't been sitting in the store, hadn't been handled by a lot of people, and I actually ate a good number of his vegetables out of his garden. Homeschool your kids. It doesn't do any good to, and I know I'm a hypocrite on this because I'm still tithing my children to the state, but if you have the capability and the wherewithal, consider homeschooling your kids and getting them out of the statist enemy school system. The Second Amendment. Second Amendment wasn't put in there for duck hunting. We're hearing this a lot now in the so-called media. We don't need guns for duck hunting. That's not what it was in there. That's not what the Second Amendment was put in the Bill of Rights for. It was to put in the Bill of Rights to protect us from them. People I'm talking about here tonight. Work with patriotic groups in the local area. I happen to be support life. I don't necessarily believe that the local pro-life people have any idea of who their enemy is. I understand that. But they're still, work with different groups that at least are standing up for issues that have value. And see if you can become teachers and educators within those groups. Use various forums that are available. Talk radio, access channels. Be strong about it. And don't back down to those, to the people that are still brainwashed, because you fear what they might say might hurt your feelings, or you don't want to be labeled somebody like Jeff Davis or something like this. Be strong and bold. Have the moral courage to stand up for values, to stand up for right and wrong. Back these people down when the propaganda hits them. Back them down. That's important. I've been seeing this in the last couple of months or so on some of these shows down here when I do get a chance to watch them. That's very encouraging. Some brainwashed guy calls up attacking me or attacking somebody or attacking some idea that's freedom and liberty. Get on that phone and say, I think that caller, he's the one that's wrong. He's the one that's delusional. Start backing these people down. And be strong. Have the moral courage to do it. Learn, pray. This is one thing I'm going to say. I think we need to pray to God for help in this and guidance in this. Because we've got some serious problems here in America. And we need that spiritual guidance. And finally, folks, learn alternative ways. Ways that you can improve yourself and your life and your family's life and your friends and the people you love. Alternative health care, information gathering, any type of information that makes you independent from the statist enemy. Learn that, copy that knowledge, pass that knowledge on. tape these shows, pass them to friends. I'm not up here trying to be a big hero. I'm just doing what I believe is right. I got started in this 8 years ago, and I've pondered onto some things, and I'm just doing this because I believe it's right. And that's what you need to do. Excuse me. With that, folks, we're going to go ahead and put up a slate. We're going to be right back here with Alex Jones. He's going to come in. He did some editing for us today, and I appreciate that. We got some footage coming to you. It's about 10 minutes of footage from a show yesterday on 60 Minutes, something I've been telling you about for a long time, and now they're throwing it in your face. And I actually haven't seen it, and I appreciate Alex's work on this. He was down here editing for us today, and I appreciate that. And as soon as we get the shot back up, we'll bring Alex up. And Alex is a good friend of mine, stands up strong. I want to welcome to the Jeff Davis Show here tonight. He's a fairly regular guest down here. He's a good man, good young, strong man, stands up for right and wrong. Alex Jones.
Jeff, thanks for having me.
Tell us about what we're going to be seeing here, Alex.
Well, I only had about 45 minutes to do some editing today, and I didn't do the best job with the voiceovers, and I'm going to do a better job on it and have it on my show. You were going to be on my show last Tuesday, but then I wasn't told till I got down here that my show had been canceled, or my live time had been canceled due to some mix-ups, but that's not a big deal. So I do want to get you back on as soon as possible, and also, you've been on my radio almost every week now, and you're becoming very popular. In fact, some people think it's the Jeff and Alex show. And so...
Wow, that's a pretty good team.
You've done a powerful presentation here. I just want to tell all the people out there, no matter how incredibly giant this sounds, because you don't try to run other people's lives, or you're not that complex. These guys are masters of control of civilization because they're ruthless. And they're willing to weaken whole civilizations. And you're asking, how can they control all these hundreds of groups and then bring order out of chaos? It's because they control all the printing of money worldwide, all the central banks. They have money machines. They can create whatever they want. They have a brush and a clear palette. The only thing that stands up against them is intelligent people that are not afraid of what might happen to them at their jobs or with dangerous people out in the community. Me and Jeff have taken, especially Jeff's taken real dangerous stand, and I don't want to scare you out there, but it's actually worse than we. It's actually worse than we say to you. And I'm telling you, these guys, this century alone, have caused World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korean conflict, the transnational banks financed the Bolsheviks from the turn of the century. They controlled it. And that's just a documented fact. And you hear all the time these UT professors talking about how wonderful Cuba is. Cuba has death camps, my friends. Cuba is a hellhole. So is Russia. And America is adopting many of these socialist aims. And all I want to say to you out there is that what you're fixing to see, and thanks for having me, Jeff.
You're welcome, Alex.
What you're about to see is about a little over 12 minutes or so, and I'm being sarcastic on part of it, is last night's 60 Minutes, where they tell you that they got all these helicopters and all these weapons and all these armored personnel carriers and all these automatic weapons and grenade launchers.
And it's in our best answers.
Well, it's just free. You know,
free.
They're only taking it because it's free. Well, excuse me, we paid taxes to buy all these helicopters and weapons. They call it Army surplus, but a bunch of it, they say on the tape, is brand new weapons. And
I think the most important question, let me just ask the most important question in understanding this, is this country was founded upon peace officers, protect and serve the public. What are these folks now doing with this type of artillery wearing black ski masks?
Well, it's now law enforcement.
Better wake up, folks.
And they're dressed just like Nazis. And the important part of it is what you're fixing to see is 60 Minutes footage, about 5-6 minutes of it. And then later I show you Lair NewsHour footage from September 23rd that you've seen before if you watch this program, where they do tell you that it's the military and they're training with the military and it's multi-jurisdictional task forces. 60 Minutes says it's kind of like a
Which
big...
means we don't know who it is.
Exactly. 60
Yeah.
Minutes acts like it's just kind of a big boo-boo, and well, why does this small town have 23 helicopters with infrared? Well, it's kind of just because it's free and they can't help it. Why is the federal government giving all the local law enforcement this? Why are they giving them free training? Why are they giving them direction? Because they are creating, it's already here, a police state. And then we
Very accelerated.
Yes, it's very depressing to talk about this. Then we're going to show you some clips from what happened out at Waco. We're going to show you BATF and FBI talking about how they're going to kill people. We show you people talking about killing. This is called military operations. That's what they're planning for you and your families. This is happening. This is world history. We're not extremists. If you doubt this, you are extreme dupes. You are extreme fools. You're extreme dumbbells, to use Jeff's words. Guys, it's dangerous not to worry about this. It's dangerous to let federal control of your local... See, I used to think, a year ago, I thought Jeff was full of it on a few things, like the police being under federal control, until a SWAT team commander here in Austin walked up to me where I lift weights. I'd seen him on television. I've told the story 100 times. He said, Alex, it's worse than you say. The drug war is about controlling competition. The drug war is about this. The drug war is about that. The drug war is totally corrupt. We're training with the military at air bases. We have helicopters. We have infrared. No one knows about it. And I said, Jeff, you must be right. Now I'll open my mind up to this, and I was just brought some documentation that I'll have probably tonight when I'm on Bad Bob's show, coming up at 11, about the actual military documents about civilian labor camps that they have built that are just waiting for you, otherwise known as concentration camps. We better go with that.
Yeah, we better. Alex, I want to say that I appreciate I think we'll have a few minutes to wrap it up here.
You did an excellent presentation.
Thank you. Let me just mention, folks, the Downsized Government Seminars coming up next Sunday, or this Sunday.
And this is the one that you're not going to be at.
Right, I'm going to be.
But you're usually there.
I'm going to be out of town, yeah. And February 22nd, Waco Remembrance, 5 years later. And coming up this Thursday at 5 o'clock, Alex is co-hosting it. The Jeff Davis there's the Waco Remembrance, 5 years later, out at the Chariot Inn. That's one that's particularly close to my heart. I'm actually moderating and hosting that one. And this Thursday, on Christmas Day, 5 p.m., Channel 10, Alex and I believe the title of the show is it's either Are You a Practicing Communist or Domestic Terrorist in America?
Absolutely. Let's go.
God bless you, Austin. We'll be back after
Long live the Constitution and death to the police state, death to New World Order.
God bless you. I think we can wrap it up here, or we have a little bit of time.
Number 4693.
Good footage.
Jeff Davis, that's Running Bear from Capitol. That's Ridge Runner. You probably never met him. He's an official. Now, let's see if I know some of my history on these pistols. Maybe Rich can help. This is a Remington replica.
Brass frame.
Is that right?
Right.
And this is a Colt.
Right, an Army Colt.
Army Colt.
Army Colt.
See that, folks? You can tell this has a top strap. The Remingtons came out with those sometime during the Civil War. Very prized by about everybody. And the old Army Colt, you see, doesn't have one.
And the Confederate Army were good, God-fearing men. A lot of them were not happy with the situation that was going on politically. With states, not unlike what's going on now with our federal government squelching the First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, and Third Amendment rights. So, my ancestor came from Red Rock, served with Sibley's Brigade, and was lucky enough to walk back to San Antonio. And then later on served in the Trans-Mississippi District, fought federal soldiers, fought starvation and everything else. We're trying to show that the micro-encapsulated form of history that's being taught to the kids is not really what happened. Of course, you have the federal government and the school board saying, well, that's not politically correct. They forget that the history was written by the victors, and they're trying to cut the history short and make it look like everyone owned a slave, which they didn't, only 2%. And most of the men didn't own any slaves.
Wasn't it also over things like tariffs placed by northern states on southern states?
Yes. political
various products.
Political disgruntlement against all their rights being taken away, being taxed into being poor, and the basic person barely having enough to make it a year would have to pay large taxes for anything that he bought. That's basically it. The perception that most of the ancestors that were around at the time are not good perceptions. They're not fair. It's politically correctness going on right now. We're trying to show the people out in the United States that our relatives had ancestors who signed the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, who fought in the wars previous to the Civil War for the United States, and for them to have to take up arms to fight their government meant that there was no way of speaking to each other to settle it amicably. So that's mainly it. And that's not unlike the IRS right now, saying that they can come in your home, and if you have guns that are not you don't pay taxes on firearms, they're going to come in your house and take them. The government's back to the way it was then.
You ever heard the term New World Order?
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid that won't work because we're not a very good group of people. We won't go by that for very long, and then everybody will get mad like they did in Yugoslavia and take over the government again. We're not a political organization. We find ourselves.
Kayla?
Is that right? Oh, I see. Yeah, I forgot. I just sit around all the time. Right. Well, anyway, we're down here in Gonzales. I didn't call up because I figured, yeah, $6. Yeah. Actually, it is. There it is. Come and take it. Yeah, Mike's down there somewhere. We'll catch up with him in just a minute. Anyway. Yeah, let me get a call whenever I get back. All right? Hey, we still on for next week? Yeah, I didn't know if maybe you didn't want to go anymore or what. I was afraid you're going to make me suffer through this by myself. Well, I hear you. I hear you. Well, this will be a victory. All right. Yeah, let me get back to this filming here. All right.
Joseph right here, on the tractor.
Another neat old car.
It is.
Look at this old thing. Oh, forward there, ain't it?
You better not put me back. He's like,
I've heard some coastal jokes what they're doing. Hey, you sit there, so calm down.
it's cold.
Oh, here comes the bait. This is the bank neat. See this car? Wells Fargo. Yeah. There's the Wells Fargo team. Good old Scouts. No homos here. Dodge. Another old car. I don't know what this is. Old Ford or some kind.
This way, Quentin.
There's an old car. 21 Model T. George 57 Chevy. I guess it is. Boy. I just have a little too much fun here. old farm ball there. Check that out, folks. That's a neat old tractor. Farm ball. First Baptist Church. Commerce.
Like that turkey in the...
Old M151 it looks like. See it now, Mary. Got the little trailer to go with it. Oh. Now I like the old M151. That's more for my day. Charles.
Yo vine a verlo, ya murió la cucaracha, ya la llevan a enterrar.
Stay tuned right here for more classics.
Identification for urine and blood testing to get driver's license. Prepare yourself for new environmental taxes that are massive, for cameras everywhere, for K-tag chips in your car before you're able to drive or move or do anything. They're already doing it in Kansas and other states. Prepare.
Whatever you want to say.
When we took the bus trip down to Waco, this is Gene Ritter with Republic of Texas. We went on that bus trip down there to Waco with the survivors. That's hallowed ground there now, and a little different than other hallowed ground in our country. You know, we've all been to the Civil War battlefields, Revolutionary War battlefields, things of this sort. This was a little bit different, and it really hammered home to me in a way like the straw that broke the camel's back as far as what had actually happened there, the atrocity. And it did it in such a way that it's not like I was angry like I have been before. This was a devastating thing that was very humbling. And to realize that we have a government that is, number one, very powerful, and number two, extremely callous in its view of the population. You stop and consider going up to a place like this and the destruction that they caused is worse than any criminal I can think of, or any mass murderer. This was so heavy-handed. Talking with some of the people who lost children and grandchildren there gave me a whole different frame of mind on the thing. And in a way it's frightening, in a way it's sad, again, to consider that the government would do this sort of thing to private citizens, tax-paying registered voters, because they may not hold the party line. It smacks so much of the old stereotypical view of the totalitarians, you know, your Stalins, your Hitlers, Mussolini, folks like this. They're a threat to the state. And the things that have gone on since then is quite frightening. These people apparently they view us along the same level as animals. You know, I recently picked up a CD of an older piece of music by Pink Floyd called Animals, and it's amazing how much a piece of a group of songs that were written during the Nixon era are even more relevant now. I sat down, I read the words again for the first time probably 15, 20 years, and it really, you know, I'm sitting there and I keep seeing Clinton lying, Janet Reno lying, Waco burning. And we get this officer of the ATF down here at the seminar, the Texas Best Seminars, last month, I believe, in June. And he's justifying everything that went on as being perfectly normal and okay. And that sent a very clear message to me. The government doesn't care. They'll kill you. I mean, you don't agree with us, fine, we'll just kill you. We'll burn your house down. We'll abduct your children and turn them over to the homosexual community or whatever in the heck. I mean, they'll destroy you. One way or the other, you will be destroyed. And so many people seem to sit back and think, oh, there's nothing to this. We've really gotten comfortable and we've really gone to sleep. And and that to me is as frightening as how bad the government is, that the people don't care. And I would hope that anyone that views this documentary, for God's sakes, at least have enough sense to ask questions. And whether you agree with David Koresh or Randy Weaver or the Republic of Texas or Texas Best Seminars, it doesn't matter. At least have enough common sense to ask some questions and find out, well, is there really something to this? And the fact that the government is going around and killing these people, attempting to kill, for instance, Republic of Texas high-ranking officials, tells me that there must be something to what we're all doing on this fight for freedom, or they wouldn't be doing it. The Branch Davidians may have been a little different religiously than the mainstream, but they must have had something about them that was so truthful that the government couldn't take it. And the government came down hard on them for trying to get, either to get the truth out or to live the truth, you know, according to God's laws. And the government doesn't want you to do that. They want you to live by the government's laws. So, you know, and I look at all the patriot groups being attacked by the government, and they're being attacked viciously. They must be doing something right for the government to want them this bad, because stop and think about it, folks. Otherwise, the government wouldn't care. They'd just write you off as just some kook. But they're coming down hard on it. They're taking lives. They're taking property. They're taking everything. They're taking it. and you have no recourse. That's something to stop and think about.
Okay, I got a question for you, but my part will be cut out, so you'll have to kind of say, okay, what did you think of when you met all the Branch Davidians for the first time? Did you think they were nice people and all that kind of stuff? Just say,
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, when I met the Branch Davidians for the first time, the survivors, they were down at Texas Best Seminar meeting. We had ones for them, February, March, or something like that. And I was touched because these people hold no real animosity toward what happened. I mean, these are, agree with David Koresh or not, these people live the Christian lifestyle. You Christ walking on this earth 2,000 years ago in his preachings about, forgiveness. He had some strong ideas on, taking care of yourself or this or that, shaking the dust from your feet when you leave a certain town or whatever. But the complete faith in God that these people had, and I will never forget to my dying day, my brother James and I have always considered ourselves cowards because we didn't even go to the first roadblock when Waco was transpiring. And I made a speech that day and I brought that up. And afterwards, during a smoke break, all of the Branch Davidians came outside and sought me out and in a very polite way chastised me for that, reminding me that God has a plan and it wasn't our time to go. But they were very, very clear on one point. They did not want to hear me use that word about my brother and I again. And that touched me. And then again, at the bus trip, going up there, walking with these people, the eerie feelings when you'd walk around what's left of the foundation, and they'd say, well, this was my room, or this, and it was, but the people themselves struck me as really living the Christian lifestyle, which is hard to find these days. We've got a lot of folks that profess to be Christians, but if you look at their actions, they don't live what they preach. And these people do. And it was I don't think anyone could walk away from a meeting with these people and not be touched by the way that they live, the true biblical fashion in which they live, the embodiment of everything that Christ taught. It was really, really amazing to me.
Why is it that none of the churches, even today, 95% of them, don't want to talk about Waco and they don't want to take up for the Branch Davidians?
I'll tell you what, the churches today, your mainstream Christianity, so to speak, I'm getting very distrustful of them. Now, I was born and raised a Catholic. Now, I've had a lot of gripes with the Catholic Church, especially since they had their Vatican Council in '63 and they came up with the Novus Ordo Mass, which really, at the Vatican Council, they destroyed the Catholic Church from what it used to be. And the government has infiltrated our churches so bad, and I realize that may sound stupid, but I can give you a classic example. In Catholicism, December the 8th is a holy day of obligation. It's the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. I'm in church. The priest is going to make his little sermon. Into the sermon, he ties in the fact that we're losing the ozone layer and the global warming is going to get us if we don't do something. And I went ballistic. And after the service was over, I went up to him and we went round and round. But these people are concerned with their tax-exempt status. And folks, you can believe it, you can disbelieve it. If you go to your church and you'll start listening to what is being said, not only the words, but the tone of the message, they're preaching the government line. Look at how many churches are accepting homosexuals as ministers. Now come on, if you open the Bible, it's pretty cut and dried. And it's not that I'm trying to sound intolerant, but now wait a minute, are you going to live by God's laws or man's laws? You cannot serve two masters. And if you're going to serve God, you better stand up and be ready to take some heat and to do what you're supposed to do. But the churches they're 501c3 tax-exempt status. They're going to preach the government line because they want to keep that status. It's like extortion. Well, Southern Baptist Church. You want to keep your tax status, you know. And so many ministers, I think, deacons, priests, your pastors, have really gotten tied up into a political agenda thing to where they've discovered that they can further themselves. I would almost think that all these guys want to run for office. And that's something, again, Mike, that got me about the Branch Davidians. There was no politics involved here. This is simply a case of right and wrong. They have to have forgiveness in their hearts in order to be saved. You know, and while they may live by the old adage of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, they're still going to have that forgiveness in their hearts. When Clive Doyle was up here last month with the ATF guy, there was no, you know, he wasn't out to get this guy. There was no animosity. There was no hatred. And this to me is a better example of Christian belief and living than the 95% of the pastors and ministers that are preaching in the pulpits today as we speak.
Mr. Rick Habecker up here to talk to us about law enforcement. Rick Habecker.
Well, it's as you know, Y2K. It's going to have an effect on most everything, or at least the experts think so. I don't know personally, but I like to think of this the way I think about insurance for my car. I want to be ready if I do have an accident. I want to have that insurance on my home or my car, and in the event that this does come true, there are some things that involve law enforcement that are going to directly affect you, and they're going to affect you in ways that have to do with your driving your car. It could have an effect on you as far as being picked up for a warrant. And I'm going to explain here in just a minute a little more about this. It's going to affect things as far as your pocketbook as a taxpayer of Travis County, or for that matter, as a state resident, because the implications of a computer breakdown in law enforcement, be it in a penal institution or a jail, or for the communication systems and databases that our roving patrol officers use, can affect you. And by this I mean, in specifics, if you're stopped for speeding, and whether you were or not, you're stopped for speeding, that officer, if there is a database breakdown, it's a longer period of time that you're going to be detained for him to have the time to check you out, to find out if you're a wanted criminal, for instance, or if you're wanted in some other state, or if there's a local or a state or an NCIC federal type warrant on you. So there's going to be a drain on your patience if this thing happens and it affects law enforcement the way it could. You're going to have to be patient with that officer, because he's kind of flying on his own, the way they had to do back in the 40s and the 50s and the years before that, before they had the computer and the two-way communications with a dispatch. He's on his own. He's got to make a judgment call on whether he thinks you're a dangerous person or not. And I think that for a lot of us, that's easy to do. But if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's Saturday morning, about the only people on the road, statistically speaking, are the bad guys and the good guys, it can make things kind of dicey for that officer. And I think that they deserve a little extra patience, and it's just going to be a tough situation all the way around. As I said before, returns on criminal history checks of detained citizens will cause longer delays. Return on hits of stolen vehicles, folks. Now, this is a concern to you if you are an automobile owner and you're concerned about auto insurance premiums, and the insurance industry as well are concerned about this thing. If they can't get an accurate return on whether or not that vehicle that somebody is in that they've detained, there's problems there. There's a stolen vehicle that could have been apprehended, and the person driving it could have been apprehended, and the car could have been confiscated and returned back to its rightful owner. Slow or non-existent returns to verify warrants on the NCIC or TCIC systems. In some areas, even local warrants are kept on a computer database. It just kind of depends upon how big the jurisdiction area of that police agency is. They may have their local warrants. That's the things that they have on you for, you violated the smoking ordinance downtown one day, or you had a barbecue pit going and they have an ordinance against that. Well, those things are generally kept in what are called a local warrant a section, and when an officer calls in, that's one thing that generally is checked, is whether you're wanted for a little peant thing like that. They are covered, I should add also, the officers are covered by the good faith exception to hold you. They can't get a return back on an FBI, and by that I mean the NCIC system or the TCIC system. They can't get a return back on that. They do have the power to hold you for up to 72 hours to find out who you are or who you aren't. And that's just something that we have to keep in mind. I want to hope that the officers that are going to be caught in these kind of situations are going to be like the ones I'm familiar with officers that are like west of Travis County, where it's more rural. And those officers out there had, just from sheer experience and from time on the force, they exercise a great deal of personal judgment. They check your demeanor out. You know, are you dressed like somebody that's maybe been bank robbing? Or you smell of alcohol? You know, there's some judgment calls that the individual officer has the power to make if he wants to make it. Okay, now if he just wants to be a hard ass and haul you in, he's going to do it. But a lot of officers, I want to think, are legitimately in a situation, if this thing happens, they don't like and they don't want to detain you any further than they have to, but they can if they want to. Now, there's some instances that could be affected in our prisons and our jails, and now why should we be concerned about things that happen in our prison or jails? Because after all, those people in there, they're convicted, or they're pretrial detainees. Maybe they did it, maybe didn't, maybe they did it, maybe they didn't, but maybe they're in there and they're convicted, and why should we care about them? Well, those people inside those institutions still have Eighth Amendment rights to be free from cruel and unusual punishment. Those people have procedural rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution for due process. And the problem specifically that can come into, that can happen here if these systems go down is this. So much of the information on every inmate in every state prison, in every federal prison, and even in a jail like Travis County, a very populous county, all that information is computerized. Some of these bad guys that get took in, they're picked up on the side of the road, they're picked up wherever. They're usually not very forthcoming about who they are, about what their history is like. During a booking situation, I don't know how many of you have ever seen inside of a jail how it works, but they have a session there where the inmate's brought in and they do a question and answer session with them. It's nothing to do with what they've been charged with. It's not an interrogation. This is simply to screen them for HIV and AIDS, screen them for whether or not they belong to a hate group, screen them whether or not, let's see, just think of something that if they hate Jews, or they hate blacks, or they hate, they're trying to find out who these people should be incarcerated with while they're waiting trial, okay, or while they're in the state pen if they're convicted. And this information, if it's not accurate, can result in inmates being injured, inmates being killed. And again, a lot of us think, well, what do we care? Well, we should care, because you as taxpayers are going to have to pick up the tab for those Section 1983 civil rights violation cases that will probably be filed and will probably, well, I won't say this. I will say that it could go either way on whether or not those things are successful, because we're dealing with, I guess, what could be considered an act of God if these computers go down, and the government may have the right of summary judgment through qualified immunity if this happens. So these are things that should concern us. I don't know if it's going to happen, as I said before, but I do know this. If it does, there are some serious implications that you as taxpayers and you as drivers of automobiles, you as anyone who's ever stopped or talked or been questioned by the police may have to deal with. And I think we've got to put some trust in the professionalism of our officers out there, and let's give them all the room that they can possibly need. I think I've just about ate up 5 minutes. I don't know, do I have question and answers?
Just whenever you want to say, I'll cut it up.
Okay. Name's Robert Kurtz, and I'm a concerned American, Vietnam vet, with 8 years in the United States Marine Corps, most of that in Special Forces Recon. And I wanted to give my basic opinion of the fiasco at Waco and what I consider to be the murder of many innocent people. Sadly enough, we now know that the government, through their own filming, infrared FLIR films, machine gunned down those people as they were trying to get out of those burning buildings. And a person really takes a look at those films, like the Waco Rules of Engagement, you will see that when they broke through the walls with their tanks, they set it up so that it was like a pot-belly stove, so to speak. The direction the wind was blowing, it would force the fire through there very quickly, especially after putting all the so-called tear gas in there, which was combined with another chemical, which we know and can prove created a very deadly gas. In fact, we kill prisoners with it. But I think it's time that American people wake up to the truth of this. And don't take our word for it. Investigate it. We have the documentation available, and I think that if America will stand up for itself, we can fight this, we can overcome this and get the truth out to all Americans, because you see the media is not going to tell you a thing. The media is controlled by high up officials, being controlled by world bankers, and these things are easy to prove. Other than that, I think the sadness of it was that it was an attack on freedom of religion. It was an attack on the Second Amendment. And it was an attack on Americans and human beings in general. Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it.
I got questions for you, but I'm not going to put my questions in. It's just going to have your answers.
Okay.
So kind of, when you do your answers, stated it. What do you personally, when you met the Branch Davidians, what do you personally think of these people?
Oh, by the way, I did get to meet 4 of the survivors of Waco. And initially, the first thing I did was hug them before I ever knew them. And once I got to set them down and listen to them and talk to them privately, as you know, I do a kind of a religious, political type show. And these folks were gentle and kind. They loved their Savior, and their survivors still do. They're going about their lives in a Christian manner. And these were good folks.
Okay, just say who you were with and everything. Who you're with.
Okay, my name's Greg Erickson, and I'm with Free Press International.
Okay, Greg, what did you think about Waco when it was going on in 1993, and then go into how you evolved into your thinking today?
Okay, with regards to Waco, my feelings are it's already been proven by Waco Rules of Engagement, the video that's come out, that the government did set the fire, but that doesn't even matter really either, because basically 50 children died, or thereabouts, 50 children, something like that, died, and because of this incident. And David Koresh could have been at fault some, but our government, your own government who you pay taxes to, was definitely at fault, and 50 children died because of that.
That's going to be it's 17.
Oh, it's only 17?
Yeah, like 17 children died. But
how many people total?
Davidians. After I ask a question, just give me a second. When you first met the Davidians, what is your impression of them?
They just seem like ordinary people. Nothing unusual at all. They were great.
Okay, but what were they telling you on the news? They were demonized, and they were cultists, and they were child abusers, and they had drug labs there.
Right.
Did you fall for all that?
At that time, no. No. They've been basically demonized, is what's going on. They should be allowed to do what they're doing, whatever they want to do. It's freedom of religion, freedom of speech. I know this is terrible.
Well, I'll cut it to pieces, Greg. That's no problem. I'm an expert editor now. I took all the classes. Okay, just basically, Greg, if this ever happened again, what would Free Press International do?
Well, number one, it's already happening right now. There's a standoff in Arizona right now that the mainstream news is not reporting. They're trying to get a man named William Cooper in Arizona. And the militia has said, no, you can't have him. So it's going on right now.
Okay, but what is Free Press International trying to do? If another Waco would ever happen, or William Cooper, what are you trying to do to get the word out?
We already wrote a letter to the governor of Arizona requesting information on this. We're trying to set it up where we can actually fly a reporter out there and cover this story.
Okay, just not in that case, but just tell me, what does Free Press International, in cases like, because this is a Waco tape, Greg,
Okay.
In case if another Waco would ever happen, what would you do? What would you do, Free Press International? And state it like that. Don't, because this is not going to be on there. What I'm saying.
Okay, Free Press International would try to go to the site where something is happening and cover that story and get in as close as possible and do what the mainstream media is not doing, getting the real truth.
Okay, what do you think about them backing off the media for 3 miles from Waco?
That's obscene. That's obscene. There's no way that you can get the truth, like in Waco, with the press held back 3 miles. That's nothing but insanity. You're only going to get one side of the story that way, and that's exactly what happened. You got one side of the story.
What does Free Press International think about real reporters asking real questions and then they get kicked out of the news conferences?
I think at that point they should become political activists and protest peacefully.
Go ahead.
My name is Don Bennett. I'm an evangelist. I have been for about 40 years with the Church of Christ. I recently wrote a book, The Gospel Truth About Salvation. I produce and host the Gospel Truth telecast viewed on Channel 11 Access TV here in Austin, Texas, and I have been doing so for 12 years.
Okay, just stop because I'm going to edit it all.
Okay.
Okay. This tape, Don, is about it's called Wake Up or Waco, and it's about Waco and the implications of what happened and the police state that we're in now. So I mean, different scenes of what's going on to America right now. So what I want to know from you, Don, is what did you think when you first saw what was happening in Waco on TV?
Well, I thought it was an atrocity, and just the idea that our own government could unleash the power against American citizens in that fashion, women and children, and under the guise of protecting the children, slaughtered at least 80 people, including women and children, and the spin doctors, the media, trying to demonize these people who were people of faith, regardless of what their faith were. They weren't harming anybody. And it should have been a wake-up call for all America. We're going to see this government through edicts by the office, administrative office, trying to regulate all religions. I think they call it Office of Religious Persecution Monitoring. And under the guise of trying to stem religious discrimination, they're going to unleash the power of our government to sanction and to persecute people of faith in this country. And I think it is a horrendous thing, and people should wake up and see what this government is about and the hate that it has for especially Christians.
Okay, and this question is going to be asked to several different people, not only black people, Don, but I've asked quite a bit of people this already, and I want your answer on it if you can. This is not going to go on, but this tape is going to be used to build back, the proceeds are going to be used for the Davidians to build back Mount Carmel. Why do you think that when something happens as you know, they call it a race issue or something, that Jesse Jackson runs down to UT or wherever, Jasper or wherever something's going on that, you know, of a race issue that they're trying to get a race issue going. How come Jesse Jackson didn't run down to Waco, Texas, since there was like 39 black people that were murdered there and tortured? How come he didn't run down to Waco, Texas and start protesting, and how come we didn't see him or we didn't hear anything afterwards about it? And put it in a way, Don, where they'll know that you're talking about that, because they're not going to hear me.
It is my opinion that the so-called black leaders that did not come out and stand against this incident in Waco, both politicians and so-called civil rights leaders, including Mr. Jesse Jackson, is because those people were not politically correct. And I think that it was not expedient for him to take a stand, and them, the black politicians and Mr. Jackson, to take a stand against what was done in Waco. And this should let a lot of people realize that they have an agenda, and they will follow their agenda, and that agenda is moving in the direction of oppressing for all people, both black and white, and they're just playing their part in this whole series of incidents that occurred. And so they will only take stands if it's a part of the agenda. And I believe that that's the reason that we have not heard people of the persuasion that were mentioned stand up against the actions that were taken in Waco.
Test that out first.
Okay, testing 1, 2. Let me put.
Plug your mouth.
Okay, just a second. Okay, just let me.
It's there. I can hear you talking.
I've written The Gospel Truth About Salvation. Is a book that tells God's plan in truth. There are a lot of lies in religion, and I wrote this book so that people who are not scholars or theologians can find God's plan of salvation and what you must do in order to be saved. My telephone number is area code 512-443-6509, and my email address is gostruth@swbell.net. And give me a call. Well, you don't have to put that on.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Was it one time? How's it going?
How you doing?
Yeah, Mom.
Oh, she can come out here. That lady in purple, she is really good.
Is that goon coming over here?
Get her.
Get her when she's
Where?
Lady walking straight towards you.
I'll just act like it's on.
I'll set up a time for you to ask Congressman Doggett whatever questions you want personally, but we can't film inside the store. It's a private store.
Oh, that's fine. We'll just
Well, we'll ask him, but when he gets out of the truck.
Yeah, we'll ask him when he leaves.
Huh?
Not a
I
problem.
think when he leaves, he's got a lot of people who've been here a long time and they're elderly, and they're kind of, we try not to make the elderly.
It's really not a big deal, lady.
There's a lot of people
I do 6
here.
radio shows a week, TV shows. I'm on nationwide. It's not really a big problem.
Good. So what we'll do is I'll catch him and brief him and let him know, and then we'll work something out outside
Today,
the store.
right?
Outside the store when he's finished, okay? I'll do my best. I haven't talked to him yet, but we'll try to do that.
Oh, it's not.
Well, we
Good.
vote
That
too.
sounds good.
We vote too, and we want to ask
All I'm
questions.
saying is that we have some elderly people, and I think they've been
Well,
here
we're
a
not going
long
to film
time.
them, but that's not who we want
What
to
I'm
film.
saying is that we need to get him in there so he can start at 11. They've been waiting for us.
Where's he at? I hadn't saw him yet. It's 11, isn't it?
Well, thanks for your help, Patty. We really appreciate
And
it.
what is your name?
My name is Alex Jones, KJFK Radio here in Austin.
Okay. What's your name? KF what?
KJFK.
KJFK. And what is your name?
This is Mike Hanson. I'll give you one of my cards.
Good.
Here.
Great. Okay, great.
Democrats are lucky to have friends like Christian Sides.
Like what?
Like Mr. Sides, and they're telling you all kinds of stuff.
Okay, I don't know who that is.
Your friend in the black parachute pants.
I don't know who that is. I don't know who he is.
Yeah, I know who he is. Test. Congressman Doggett, my name is Alex Jones.
Hello, Alex.
I'm here to ask you about the Council on Foreign Relations.
Okay.
And
Why don't you come on in?
Okay, well.
They won't let us film inside, sir.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
We just have a couple short questions
That'd
for
be
you.
fine.
I'm with KJFK Radio.
Uh-huh.
And we're concerned about the loss of sovereignty of our government and the secret organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, that Ramsey Clark from your own party was a guest on my radio show, and I've also got an interview for TV.
Is Ramsey still a Democrat?
Yes, he is. Well, he was an attorney general, and he is what you call a real liberal, not a wolf in sheep's clothing. And there's also a lot of Republicans like Congressman Ron Paul, who is a sitting congressman right now, I'm sure you know him,
I sure do.
who is alerting us about the problems that we're having with the United Nations and world government. What's your opinion on that?
Well, my opinion is that we need to be concerned with the interest of our people here at home, first and foremost, and of the United States. But I think that there's a role for us to play in the United Nations, and that we need to be involved in international organizations as long as we put our own interest as a nation first.
What's your opinion of the World Court that the UN has set up?
Well, I think you're talking about the new
yes, the new one
that's come up for a criminal court.
Yes.
I think that the United States expressed a number of reservations about that court, and it remains to be seen how effective it can be. But the idea of having some kind of a war crimes court to deal with the kind of people that we've seen in the Balkans is not an unreasonable one.
Didn't we already have one based in The Hague, and that was also used during the Nuremberg trials?
We did have one based in The Hague, but the idea of reassessing it after all these years and seeing if it can be more effective to prosecute war criminals is one that I think is worth considering.
Just a few more questions,
Sure.
sir. What is your opinion of the Federal Reserve, 80% of the stock being private and only 2 of the 7-member board being appointed?
I think we need to continually reassess the situation at the Federal Reserve. Some of its operations may well need to be in secret, but I've always felt that the more openness you can get in government and the more public participation, the better the policy usually works.
What is your opinion of the flare footage that came out in '93 in the Senate and now in Waco Rules of Engagement, which was up for an Academy Award, that shows the Fed's own flare footage as they machine gun men, women, and children?
I've not seen the flare footage, and I would be pleased to take a look at it and respond after seeing it.
What would you do if you saw the footage and saw that? Would you call for more investigations?
Well, I want to see what it is before making any decision on it.
What is your opinion of what's going on with NAFTA and GATT and how they promised us back in '93 that we would run a huge trade surplus with Mexico? It went from a $1 billion surplus the first year to a $15 billion deficit and has gotten bigger ever since.
I think we need to continue to reassess all of our trade agreements to be sure that they're working in our interest, first and foremost. But on the whole, my feeling is that we need more international commerce, that we need to keep looking for ways to expand our international commerce rather than to reduce it, that it means more jobs here. As far as NAFTA and GATT, it is very troubling to see some of our jobs moving south of our border without seeing a commensurate increase in new trade opportunities there. So that's why I think we need to keep looking at it.
Last question, and it's about the United Nations. About 9 months ago, we had the Kyoto Summit in Japan. It was a UN international summit. The media reported it as an international summit, and you had 167 countries, 134 were to be exempt, and America was being asked to make the biggest cuts in fossil fuel usage. That to me sounds like open economic warfare against our industrial capacity.
I don't view it that way. We generate a significant amount of greenhouse gases.
40%.
For a very much smaller percentage of the world's population, but I don't think you can have an effective global warming treaty unless everyone's participating. What is ironic is that we had some of the folks that don't want us to address the issue of global warming over lobbying the Chinese to stay out. At the same time, they told us to not participate in any treaty unless the Chinese were in.
Well, that's a good point, though. China has 0 restrictions. All the rest of these countries have 0 restrictions. India, Mexico. How can Germany and England, why are they pushing for us to make these cuts?
Well, I believe that we need the Chinese in and all of the underdeveloped world in. What I'm pointing out is that some of the same people that are opposed to the whole idea of addressing this issue were over lobbying to keep the Chinese out. That's unfortunate.
Has Al Gore
who's gone through this Texas summer, I'm not saying it's all the result of global warming, knows that it's sizzling even in the shade, and I think we need to be addressing this problem.
Has Al Gore been able to ram that through the Senate? Is he going to be able to get that?
Get what?
Oh yes, the national ID card, sir. What's your opinion of the national ID card?
On which subject?
Well, they've been trying to ram it through. First, it went through in '96 as the Fair Responsibility in Immigration Act, and now Clinton's trying to sneak it through under the guise of a medical ID card. What's your opinion of thumb scanning, urine and blood testing for driver's license?
Well, you've asked about. Yeah.
What's your opinion of urine and blood testing for driver's license? Because President Clinton has ordered.
Well, I don't think President Clinton has ordered that. And as far as the national ID
it's
card,
in the Federal Register, sir.
As far as the whole idea of the health ID card, I think it raised a number of privacy questions, and that's why it's been put on hold.
So you're going to vote against it?
It's not up for a vote. It's been put on hold. There's
but
nothing to vote on.
Will you vote for it if it comes to a vote?
I want to look at the final proposal. We don't have such a proposal. We don't have any issue to vote on that at present.
Will you call for indictments at Waco?
Hey there, Mike.
Hey guys. JBS, aren't you?
Get the bike while we're here. Bring it here.
Here we go. Look at his face. Hey, Mike. Here we have minions of the establishment pettily harassing us, telling us to get up against the wall when others are out in the hallway. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
How you doing? Step out some.
I was invited by Social Security to leave the country. So I called that guy's supervisor. I told him, listen, employee, give me your supervisor's number. He says, I'm self-employed. I said, well, I'm back to your house for being self-employed. And I'm calling your supervisor. I had to call her supervisor to even get the rules sent out to me on that.
You know what, the same thing happened to me, but it was the CFR who did it.
What's the CFR?
Well, you know, the Trilateral Commission too.
I don't know what that is.
We have our suspicions, but it isn't.
Here we have minions. Here we have the local politician acting like he cares what people think. Again, he only cares about the big bank money that goes to his campaign, the insurance companies and the corrupt corporations that are using government to run the rest of us out of business. There he is. Slick dogged, never answers a question. Just babbles and lies and twists the truth. Does an excellent job of it too. He doesn't even get paid that much to sell us down the river. But I'm sure he's filling the seat that Jake Pickle had. I'm sure he'll leave office with 20 mil, just like Jake Pickle did. Getting real close with that fake face. Doggett might as well be staring at a blank wall. That's the Bill Clinton bullcrap stare. Look at it. It's just, oh, I'm listening to you. Meanwhile, he's thinking about how to get plenty of cash for those big bank accounts. So many bureaucracy, so little time. Look at the fakeness of that face. Unbelievable. And look at the lackey beside him. You don't get any more lackey than that.
She likes me.
That's the lady that tried to...
Mr. Doggett, on the fact that I'm extremely concerned about the fact that the Clinton administration is engaged in potentially treasonous behavior.
With the Chinese?
With the Chinese by giving them missile technology for the campaign cash. And if they are indeed guilty of that, people need to be spending the rest of their life in a federal penitentiary.
And then he offered you a sucker, you say?
No, they're just sitting on the table there. A dum-dum.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. There's a head of one still sitting over there. You can see it right there.
That's probably an inside joke. Oh, get him. Look, he's making a concerned laughy face.
Yeah, I told him that I wanted to get America out of the UN because I'm worried about our national sovereignty because that guy's been following me around for a year and a half. Government out of education. They have no business. That's not constitutional. I don't see anywhere in the Constitution that it says that the federal government should be worried about my kids' education. It needs to be done locally.
Plus, they've dumbed us down incredibly well. Our test scores have dropped from number 1 50 years ago to number 49th.
Absolutely. That just, more of the same. It just goes to prove that how good money after bad just keeps getting wasted. The other portions of concern that I have is the fact that they want to try and take my guns away from me. I don't see any problem with a law-abiding citizen keeping their arms. I own lots of firearms. I got a gun safe stocked full of them with many, many rounds of ammunition. I've never had to shoot anybody. I hope I never do. In fact, Ted Kennedy's killed more people with his car than I've killed with my gun. And so, if anything, we ought to allow automobiles, if nothing else, with Ted Kennedy behind the wheel of it.
And plus, look who else has been for gun control. Who else through history has been
Hitler, Mao, Stalin, Clinton.
There we go.
So, yeah, I don't see the problem with the law-abiding. You never trust a government that doesn't trust you with your guns.
Yeah.
If somebody commits a crime with a gun, hang them. But until somebody's proven themselves to be unreliable with it, there's no reason why people in America should not have guns.
Good point, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm in agreement with HEB that we get all press pre-approved.
Pre-approved press?
Well, no, just that because it's a private event.
And we've been here for 20 minutes, peaceably standing here. He said that we could come in and ask him questions.
Okay.
We talked to him in the parking lot.
If you could go ahead and ask your questions to him, we did not check with HEB and let them know that there would be press here.
Okay.
They're being really nice.
You're saying you want us to turn the camera off till we get up there?
Please.
Sure, we'll do that. That's fine.
Just because we check with them and they're letting us use their store and all that.
We'll compromise.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Here we have King Doggett, Lord of Imperial Power, lying to people. Oh, yes, I care what you think. Oh, I care about you. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm Lord Doggett. Let me think. Yeah. Ooh, ha. Oh, it's CFR money. That's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm just ignoring you, sir, so you go out and vote for me like an idiot. Yes. Pull the lever like a rat.
Beating the table and freaking out. We'll put that on all the time.
That's why I do it in public all the time. What are you talking about? Do it on the TV.
No, I remember the first time
Hold on
I
a
saw
second.
you do that. I was like, I'm trying to get this one thing. Hold on.
Okay, go ahead. Here we have Congressman Doggett acting like he sincerely cares what people think. Oh yes. Key little set mannerisms, facial expressions. You just saw his eye cocked toward us like a hyena-loving buzzard. This is Congressman Lloyd Doggett, big government limousine liberal pimp. And he's pimping you out, American people, cutting your legs off and giving you a pair of crutches. Look at him, look at the guy in the eyes, like he sincerely cares. And this poor citizen feels like he's grasping greatness and having a conversation with a man of means and power in the establishment. Nothing of the sort. This is Lloyd Doggett. You heard him earlier. Internationalism is something that we should embrace, something that we should coddle and love. And he doesn't say what he's going to do about the thumb scanning. Oh no, he thinks he has to see that in front of him. Well, it's already happening, Doggett. Happened while you were in office, and more is happening. Doggett, we want answers, but we know you. Doggett, we want answers, but we know that a studied politician like you will never give us anything but the set, staged answers, the prepackaged lines. Oh, yes, he's so interested in what this person wants to show him. Oh, he takes time out to stare and shake his head slowly. Oh, my God. This is theater, my friends. Absolute, total theater. Nothing more disgusting. He does this to every person, that same little smile and look. See me, I'm honest. If I don't want to talk to you, I won't talk to you. Why doesn't he wear the other side of the seal? Why doesn't he wear the pyramid of the Illuminati? Why doesn't he wear the Eye of Horus? Oh, that's in his heart. That's on the other side of the seal. That's what he supports, his global tyranny. Power at the apex. That is Congressman Lloyd Doggett. Vote against him. Vote him out of there. Comrade Doggett. They're trying their best to disarm us as quickly as they can. That's why they're putting on their happy faces now. But after the sun sets on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights fully, they will turn loose their henchmen that are training as we speak. The MJTF, the Delta Force, elements of the Marines, local police, on and on and on. Massive groups and organizations that they are creating local police training with the military in secret military programs. That is Congressman Lloyd Doggett and President Clinton. But meanwhile, treason is engaged in while the president transferred nuclear weapons guidance systems, multiple warhead MIRV systems. Both ends of the Panama Canal are now in Chinese hands. The Long Beach Naval Base has been within their grasp, and now they've fully attained it. This is the treason of our modern age. These are the Roman senators and their lackeys selling us out to the highest bidder. We are a commodity to be bought and sold and traded on the world market. We are a human resource, as they like to call us. Oh, I care what you think. I care what you say. Oh, so important to sit here. Oh, I can't be sincere like this. Is Alex Jones speaking. I can't be sincere. I really don't know you unless I talk to you a little bit. But this is fake sincerity. Oh, ma'am. Just listens. No information comes out. Might as well be talking to a smiley face puppet or something. Oh, did I say puppet? Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about a puppet. And who pulls the strings? The corrupt interest in Washington, in The Hague in the Netherlands, the Bundesbank of Germany in Berlin, the Bank of England in London. That's who we're talking about. There he is. The women get a nice smiley giggle. The men get the deep, sincere stare. Yes, all packaged manipulation. Guaranteed. Now this is Doggett being asked, here we have Congressman Doggett being asked real questions. He just wished there was somebody in a black ski mask to take this troublemaker away. Oh, but soon the time of love will begin.
I dare you.
And Congressman,
I dare you, dude. Dress up.
Here's Doggett answering questions from somebody that doesn't really agree with him. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, look at this slave in front of me. Oh, I can't wait till I can send him off to the spice mines of Kesselry. Oh, I just can't stand them. They're so bothersome. They don't understand that we know how things should be run. Oh, Lord Doggett, oh.
Look at the girl beside her.
Again, if you want big government, out-of-control spending, and bureaucrats raiding your home, people in black ski masks, military forces in your streets, then Congressman Lloyd Doggett's for you. Get out and vote. Congressman Lloyd Doggett for local Viceroy of Central Texas.
Hey.
Let's get
If you get them, we'll run after him. Don't worry.
Okay. Is he scurrying? Oh, look at that fake laugh.
Is he leaving?
Get the fake laugh.
35 minutes.
Hey, let me get Jesse asking a question.
This isn't over till 12:30.
No, I don't.
Would you search that for me?
I'd be glad to.
Okay, it's in two places, both in Article 1, Section 4, and in the 20th Amendment.
Okay.
So I believe it's because of de jure de facto, but I would like
I'd be glad to
research
look at it.
Okay, my other question I wrote out for you, if you would have your staff research it, please.
Okay.
And it has to do with Lincoln's General Order 100 and the acts of Lincoln between 1861 and 1865.
And seeing whether they've ever been
Well, I've seen in the statutes at large where they were codified into law in 1867, but I don't think they were ever repealed.
Okay.
And that would be
A lot of women, yeah. Back in my evil days. Conspiracies.
Go ahead, Alex.
I prefer that you not the people he's asking questions to, because they're citizens just like we.
Ma'am, if you look from the camera view, you can't see anybody. We're hitting his
And
head.
that's fine if you're doing him all that. It's a private story. We'll do more questions outside.
Well, I'm going up to ask him a question right now. I've been in
That
line
would be
for 45 minutes.
That would be
Great.
great. As other people have too.
Great.
But I just don't want you to
Everybody
offend
else
people
has
who
been so
have
nice.
questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate it. Good to see you, Desi.
I told her it's 5 a day over 35.
Get this right. Hi, Tom. We love the job you're doing. Good time.
About 5 years ago, there was a car accident right out here, and the guy hit me from behind him and
There's nothing bigger than the bureaucrat thrill of laughing at the
I did not have my Social Security card when I went down, so they tell me I can show them my IRS forms. I think that's a bit personal, don't you?
This is in connection with a personal injury case?
No, just to get my driver's license.
I see.
I'm saying that I think you all are letting them take our rights away. We gave it away to the insurance 2008 when I called my representatives, I've been laughed at. I called my governor's office and they laughed at me. So then I called the police about this man coming inside my home because the insurance company in without my knowledge videotaped inside of my home. And when I called, they laughed at me and said, we don't do it. I told them, you're my government. I'm a U.S. citizen and deceived by a large corporation that you regulate. You demand that we give our money. I demand they pay my medical bills. And they laughed at me and said they don't take care of it. I don't see the use of my government. I know I'm taking time. If they're not going to protect my basic rights, my rights.
Specific legislation that comes up to address your concerns. Some of the concerns that you've raised don't have a specific legislative solution. Some of them can only be your right to privacy.
My Social Security number private. This is my right. Do you know that in Texas, you're shaking my hand and having made an agreement, you told me you're going to fight for this. This is a legal contract in the state of Texas.
What I'm going to do is fight for the right to privacy as a general concern, and when specific bills come up that I can make a difference on, I'll be involved in them. It doesn't mean I'm going to vote 100%.
I want you to start something to stop this invasion.
Okay. I appreciate you made your point.
And I'm going to go back here and wait. I have their right to.
I appreciate the fact that you came out this morning. Thank you.
A legal contract. Did you videotape that by any chance?
Thank you for your comments.
Did you see this?
Yeah, we videotaped him, not you.
Delighted to have you involved.
I do.
Hi. You have another question?
Yeah, Alex Jones, KJFK Radio, also have an Access TV show.
Yes.
Now, you kind of dodged one of my questions.
No, I tried to be responsive on all your questions, Alex, but you had a lot of them, and I'm glad you came out today.
I understand that, sir. Thank you. My main question is the national ID card that has been being pushed through piecemeal ever since William Jefferson Clinton and the Clintonistas got in. And the main question that I have to you is about the national ID card and the thumb scanners that are being put in the state police departments to get driver's license across the state. Your state, Texas, since '94 has been thumb scanning all to get a driver's license, and now in the 1997 record, Clinton has now entered it in that he wants urine and blood testing for 25% randomly selected. Now, I know that's two questions. Can you first say what your stance is on the national ID card with privacy issues? And then can you answer the urine and blood testing that's now in the Federal Register?
Well, you've asked me about a series of things. One of them is thumbprinting by state police departments. And my suggestion is that you take it up with George Bush. To the extent that there are decisions made by the Texas Department of Public Safety that are done here in the state of Texas.
Sir, it's a federal program.
They are state administered here.
It was mandated by President Clinton.
Well, I suggest that you take up with the state of Texas the way it's operating, and if it doesn't want to do these programs, for it to contact me and other people in the delegation and express that concern.
And then it won't get its highway money.
I welcome your forwarding your concerns.
That's extortion, sir. That's extortion.
If you came out to do a radio program, you want to ask questions, but if you want to have a show,
People have been talking for 10 minutes. I'm going to ask these questions.
You have any other questions?
Yes.
You had the first 10 minutes of Congressman Doggett.
Do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask?
Yes, I have a question
what
to
are
ask
they?
you. My question is about the militarization of the police and secret military programs. It was on September 23rd, Blair NewsHour. It's been in all the major papers. What's going on with the Delta Force and local police departments here in Central Texas?
What specifically about?
Al A. Philippus on May 5th kicked out the Delta Force from Bexar County and San Antonio for attempting to bribe him.
I'm not familiar with it.
I have it on video.
Well, I'd be glad to get it, and then I'll be glad to comment on it.
I have another question for you, sir.
Okay.
And I'm asking these questions quickly. Others have talked 10 minutes.
Sure, you are.
Patty, and I don't appreciate it.
Well, I don't appreciate your attitude, sir. You had the first time. You're welcome to come out and ask your questions, but all these other people have rights too.
I don't appreciate you abusing
Thank you
American
very
citizens.
much.
You're abusing American. Don't you hit me. He tried to hit me. Don't you abuse American citizens. You're a CFR trash. You're selling this country out.
Thank you for coming out.
We're going to stand against you. You remember that, buddy.
Thank you for coming out.
We stand against you for the Constitution of the United States of America.
Goodbye.
Yeah, you got it. No, we're out here. Let's go.
Where's the indictment on Waco?
He tried to. You are a worm.
And that's a real good show, man.
Right to my money, don't you?
My money too.
That's
I
right.
pay taxes too.
That's right.
I don't know if you pay any taxes at all.
That's right, sir. They'll ship drugs into your community. Don't worry.
Excuse me. Please, you're causing a disturbance.
You're the ones that wouldn't let me ask real questions of that traitor.
Guys.
What about Clinton and the missiles?
Guys.
Let's go.
HEB did not agree to let us have public disturbances.
Okay, that's fine. You never answered about Clinton and the missile technology, sir. You never answered about Clinton and the missile technology.
Please don't interrupt this gentleman. He's entitled
Answer
to...
about
Okay.
the missiles.
Store
Answer the
manager.
question. Come on, let's go.
Don't leave. I'm calling the police.
Yeah, I'm not the threat. President Clinton is. I'm leaving, lady. I'm going to the radio for 4 hours tonight and every night. I'm out of here. You're in a controlled society. The information you're receiving is controlled. A conflagration's coming, smiley face slave. You're like the people that supported the Nazis, and you will pay. Let's go.
Have a nice day.
You have a nice day too, bootlicker.
Please leave. You're being abusive. That's not
I'm-
okay.
The government's abusing my grandparents when they took their house.
You know what?
I don't think it's funny. Let's go.
You're being abusive.
Yeah, you're abusive.
No, I'm not.
It's soft soakers like you.
Thank you. Please leave.
I am leaving, lady.
You're not.
I'm going to push to get him not elected. Let's go. See you, Tom. Got more money than you'll ever have. Let's go. Hello, Central Texas. I'm Alex Jones. This is The Real Spin. If this is your first time to tune into this program, we've been rolling since 7 o'clock. It's now about 9:47, and we're visiting with Keith Perry, known as a pirate broadcaster to the general public who's been conditioned. He is a micro broadcaster. He is not interfering with any other signals. We've been discussing a lot of things tonight. I have a little bit of a program note. I was not trying to bash the Nation of Islam a second ago. We just got a call from Willie Muhammad saying that there actually was a problem in the family, and that's why Cedric Muhammad was not able to come on tonight. And again, the offer's still there. I appreciate them contacting me and coming on the program. Now, we've had probably 25, 30 callers tonight that called up, or 25 callers or so, that called up and agreed with the program and had some commentary to say. And I've been putting out the call over and over again, as I do on my television show, quite regularly. If you want to call and disagree, I want to know exactly why you disagree. You need to call me and disagree. The phone number is toll-free 1-800-989-7257. That's outside Austin. Here locally, 390-5989. And for all that's ChoiceCom. And for all GT Wireless subscribers, free call on your cell phone at star JFK or star 535. Now, we had the music cranking earlier, and I didn't know it because I had my headphones off. I had these small headphones on today, and they hurt my ears, so I had my headphones off, except when I take callers, and I didn't hear the music on. So I'm going to replug my documentary, America Destroyed by Design, which I didn't do in the first 2.5 hours. This documentary is excellent. Here is the toll-free number, $20 to order it. And if you order this documentary, there's two ways to do it. There's an address on option 2 when you call in, it's voicemail, or you can order by credit card. So you can send us a money order or a cashier's check or a check for $20 that includes shipping and handling, okay? Or you can order by credit card. Now here is the number for America Destroyed by Design. You need to order this documentary. It's 100% documented. It'll blow your mind. Here's the number, 1-888-253-3139. Again, 1-888-253-3139 to order America Destroyed by Design. 1-888-253-3139. I do that because a lot of listeners are out driving on their job or something, and one guy told me he almost wrecked writing the number down because I only said it once. So we've been talking about all this tonight. Something I didn't get into very deeply was English only out of USA Today on their A3 page. English only, ready or not. And it says Prop 227 becomes law in California on Sunday, but many schools are just now beginning to tackle the unknowns. Proposition 227, the landmark citizens' initiative to dismantle bilingual education, becomes law in California on Sunday. By fall, all students are supposed to be taught only in English. And it says, moreover, some school boards and administrators remain hostile to the concept of English only and are dragging their feet. And civil rights groups are mobilizing parents to demand to keep their children in bilingual classes. And it says they're pushing for waivers. Superintendents and principals and teachers are going nuts, says Justo Robal, a program manager with the California Teachers Association. They don't have a clue as to how all this is going to sort out. You're doing Hispanics and other people a disservice. It's a scientific fact that kids pick up language much easier when they are young. And English is going to be the world language. It's a Mongol language, Germanic, French, Latin, and now it's picked up Indian and Spanish and African and Oriental terms. It is the ultimate Mongol language. It is perfect. It is now the world language. Everybody in the world trains in English, and it's becoming more so day after day. Why does the government and the so-called civil rights groups do this? Again, chop your legs off, give you a pair of crutches. They want groups in this country that are the labor groups, the menial labor groups, and they want you to where you're not able to be brought into the mainstream of society and get the good jobs and get into college and do the things. They want to keep you cordoned off in a reservation or a plantation of the modern system so you cannot be assimilated into the population. That doesn't mean losing your culture. American culture is a melting pot, okay? That's what we're talking about. They want you to stay there where only certain hand-picked government bureaucrat leaders can be sent out to madden these groups into fits of rage so that they can be used as a gun to the head of the country. That's what they do with poor whites, poor Hispanics, poor blacks. My friends, it is balkanization. Do any of these callers disagree?
No.
None of the callers disagree. I put the call out for disagreements, and I can't get it. I do this every couple of weeks, and you just can't get it. You're a bunch of cowards. And I think it's absolutely unbelievable. Before I go to these calls, though, I want Keith to talk a little bit about what we were talking about earlier. Now, you have Radio Tejas here in Austin, in far north Austin. People can pick it up on 95.9, broadcasting below 100 watts. What's going on with Kind Radio now that a commercial signal in far north Austin started up? That is affecting them in San Marcos, I've been told.
Yeah, it is kind of wiping out their signal, and I guess they're starting to think about either suing them to get that frequency or possibly moving on to another frequency.
They ought to move on to another frequency. I mean,
that
again,
would be the logical thing to do, yeah.
That would absolutely be the logical thing for them to do. In a few minutes, I want to talk a little bit, Keith, about websites where people can find out how to do this properly and not interfere with other signals, and how inexpensively you can do this. That's the incredible part. A micro station for only $500.
Yeah, it's pretty economical if you buy it ready built, which there are a couple of people that will sell them to you ready built. It's probably going to cost you closer to $1,000 for the basic transmitter. But it's really easy to do if you've got any electronics background. If you've ever assembled a kit or anything like that, you can probably put together a transmitter and save, half.
Very interesting. That's a good point, Keith. Now let's go ahead and talk to Sally. What's going on, Sally? Doug, what are you doing? You've called in a couple times tonight. I think I said that last night. You're saying, Doug, I really appreciate your call, but you called quite a bit. I will answer your comment and your disagreements, but that was your third call tonight. You're right. The socialized system we have now, the federal education system, is wrong. Okay? I am for vouchers because I know we're not getting out of this socialized school system. Let's go ahead and talk to Ed. Now, if you have any real disagreements, you are free to call. What's going on, Ed? Yes. Thanks. Yes, sir. I've done quite a few shows on that. Sir, I've read it on the air. I don't have it in front of me. It is, here's the actual, one of the ones that really beefed it up in the mid-'80s, I believe, 1982, was Senate Resolution 21, and that is the master arrest warrant and the master search warrant. And under the master arrest warrant, it lists how the Justice Department, which runs the FBI and everything else, what is a crime. And it's anything they say. Anything they deem. Okay? It's loving, sir. Well, I appreciate your call. You know, I felt bad. Doug's called 3 times, and Doug's a great guy. That was not real disagreements. I should have kept him on. I'm so evil. Guy called, he was really disagreeing, even though he called 3 times tonight, and I hung up on him. 390-5989 if you disagree. 390-5989. What's going on, Jason? Hello, Jason. Goodbye, Jason. Unbelievable. Now, Keith, why did you get into micro broadcasting?
Well, essentially it was because I was hearing stuff on satellite and shortwave that I thought everybody else ought to be able to hear, and I was aware that most people don't have a satellite dish or shortwave radio, and FM just seemed like the perfect way to get that information out to them.
So it was the perfect way to get that out to them, and now you're coming under attack.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I expected that to happen when I first started doing it. I knew it was inevitable.
What are you going to do when they come out to your house again, if they do?
Well, I'm not going to resist. Make that real clear, U.S. Marshals that are listening out there. I'm not going to resist. You don't need to bring a throwdown with you either. That is a weapon that you might carry to make it look like I resisted. I'll handcuff myself if necessary, but I'm not going to resist. If you have the proper paperwork, you can take my transmitter and, do with it whatever you will, but don't expect it to stop, because there's other people that say if I go down, they're coming up. So
on the same signal.
Yeah, exactly. In the past couple of weeks I had a little transmitter problem because of the heat, and I have my transmitter outdoors in a little portable building, and it went down, and I was kind of flooded with phone calls saying, what's going on? Are you going down? Are you down for good or what? And it was basically I was at reduced power, and only people real close by could hear me. So several of them mentioned that if they come and get my stuff, they're going on the air themselves personally, and fill in the gap that I leave behind.
Well, there you have it. Again, people are taking real risks to bring you this information. It's kind of like in Star Wars when Mom Mothman, or whatever she's called, says, many Bothans died to bring us this information. I mean, there's a lot of people really, really putting it all on the line to bring you alternative information. In just a few minutes, we're going to be talking to my TV producer, Mike Hanson, never been on the show before. He's called in once or twice with information. But we're going to be talking about the IRS. I hope you stay with us, make some comments on that, sure, Keith, about what the IRS is doing to him. Unbelievable. What's going on, David? David, can you pull over? Can you pull over, because you're breaking up? And they just plugged it up. Okay. But, so you're saying Monday night from 7 to 10? Well, I think a lot of South Austin isn't going to show up, David, because they put the word salamander in there. Doesn't matter if it was a pool with no salamanders in it. Doesn't matter that the city has... Well, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure. Well, I think there'll be some people that show up, but I think a lot of the people that are the really proactive, as they would call it, environmentalists aren't going to. They don't care that. You gonna let me talk? Are you gonna let me talk? Are you going to let me talk? Not gonna let me talk. Yeah, we'll talk about good feelings and all that all day until people strike right at the heart of the corruption. I've been out there and tried to talk to those people that are out there having protests around the sunken gardens, and they're going, we need to save the salamander, keep it open. And I look at them, and I say, there is no salamander in that pool. It's man-made. They just plugged it up. They're draining the water. Oh, the salamanders, we must reopen it. There's no salamanders in it. Until we start addressing the actual lives in our society, we're not going to get any of this thing done. That's a good point. The only point I'm trying to make is they're roping off part of Barton's. They're going to alter Barton's. Sir, I went out and did the only story on it, and that's why there's all this attention. I did it on radio and TV. I'm just not going to sit there with a bunch of cultists saying, oh, this is the wrong... No. No, it's not. No, it's not. Shut it all down. Teach all these people a lesson. Gate it. Only let the Nature Conservancy and the Sierra Club that push for this go in there like they do and walk around and go, But David, it has nothing to do with that. This is a ritual for the people to practice for future usurping. Exactly. They care about you, David. Don't you understand? I don't mean to be sarcastic about it, but you've got all these environmentalists out here that aren't. We are a bunch of ignorant plebeians, but even worse, a lot of us are Tories. We love licking the boots. David, thanks for the call. He didn't sound too happy. I just see these people run out and get all involved about something, and I don't mean the caller, but the people. And it's just incredible. When we get back, we'll talk about the IRS and more about pirate radio. We'll give out some websites, again, ldbrewer.com and others, where you can find out about this, but please don't infringe on other signals if you do, especially not 98.9 KJFK.
Or 95.9.
This is The Real Spin, broadcasting legally under the federal edict all over Central Texas. Thanks for all the callers and all the information. When we get back, I've got one more news story for you, and we'll talk about the IRS. Stay with us.
Oh, Lord. Now I'm not going to be able to show this.
You know what? Hawaii meets Mexico City.
I can't show that.
But you can show this. This is
Yeah.
no bull. I got some... No bull. You need to be listening to my show weekdays. Right on KVET AM. It's no bull. I tell you, just don't ask, okay? You go out with some guys, and you have a little margarita, and you have a little lunch, and the next thing you know, here you are. I can't even explain it to you. But then I can't explain Jeff Davis' show either, and he's on forever and ever. You think these are longhorns? You ought to see he's a long talk is what he is. Remember, it's all here. You can call me weekdays 390-5483. I've got more bull than this on the radio. Okay? I love you.
Well, honey, do you boys get tired riding around in the back of this truck?
And he won't show it on TV,
Look,
promises.
okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I've
it's on.
played that game before.
He says he won't use the tape.
Well, you get over there and put your hand on that one.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
drop down just a little bit more. There you go.
Listen, give these girls a hand, okay? You can't see them on the Jeff Davis show, but you need to give these ladies a hand. And this man over here, he had these pictures in the truck. He's trying to sell them down at the mayor's office somewhere. And then he's got these bulls in the back. I tell you, this is an interesting city. And you thought the Joyce Isaac show was strange, and you thought Jeff Davis was strange. Just get out in the street a while. You want to see some strange stuff. Keep it covered, okay? We got you covered, okay? That radio AM 1300. I'm Joyce Isaac's weekday.